Hating men is to men what gun control is to gun violence. That is, stupid and counterproductive. Hating men is to men what gun control is to gun violence. That is, stupid and counterproductive. It's not rocket science. The states with the worst gun violence have the strictest gun control laws. However, could that be? Surprisingly, those who break the law do not keep the law. Crazy, right? Not only that, but the more and more gun laws that are conjured up, despite the Second Amendment, the more and more gun violence we have. Weird. I suppose there's a principle here, and the consequences of which are always contained therein. Surrender the principle, and you open the door to all the consequences that follow. Convincing people of this regarding women is not a hard sell today. If women are not treated as special, then the consequences are objectification. Duh. But what does special mean? The scriptures are clear that the woman is the weaker vessel. Quote, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. 1 Peter 3:7. Peter is not just saying that women are physically weaker, though that is true, which is about as controversial today as the little kid from kindergarten cop saying, boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. This is evidenced by all the weak, pansy-ass men dressing up like women so they can dominate women's sports, which, just FYI, is the whole reason why we have women's sports that nobody watches in the first place. Women are the weaker vessel, but this does not mean that they are the less valuable vessel. A vase is more fragile than a hammer, but no one would say it is less valuable. The biggest problem with egalitarianism, and there are many, is that they believe said equality can be reduced to men and women doing the exact same things, and ironically and comically use men as the standard bearers. To state the obvious, men and women are different, and they are different all the way down and all the way through, which means in order to treat them equally, you have to treat them differently. A vase and a hammer should both be handled with care. The care is the equal treatment, but this also means that both will be used in such a way as they are intended. That is to say, that they are different by nature and perform different tasks and must be treated differently in order to be treated equally. If you treat a vase like a hammer, you get a bunch of broken and shattered vases. If you treat a hammer like a vase and tell it that it is a vase over and over and over again, and then tell it that all of the problems in the world are the result of hammers just being hammers and hammering stuff, what do you end up with? You end up with a bunch of inactive hammers just sitting on shelves. So does this mean that things don't get broken? No, it means that things only get broken, or rather, you get a lot more brokenness. Does gun control fix gun violence? No, not at all. What it does do is make it a lot harder for responsible people to defend themselves in a way already protected by the Constitution. It also creates a negative stigma around guns, making many much more fearful of guns in general, as if they now have some majestic corrupting power. So then, back to my original assertion. Hating men is to men what gun control is to gun violence. Since the sexual revolution, when all women everywhere were liberated from the shackles of the patriarchy by burning their bras and growing pit hair and being employed and stuff, it's become increasingly popular to show your street cred by bashing on men. However, what used to be obvious pandering to women has now become a deeply held religious belief. Now it's not just enough that women can do everything a man can do by having men compete in women's sports so as to beat the crap out of women. That's simply not enough anymore. All men now need to acknowledge that, as men, they are inherently evil and that everything wrong with the world is a result of their manness. Another way of saying this is that masculinity is inherently toxic by nature. The only way to correct this problem is to shelf the hammer and make it act like a vase, or rather, to emasculate men. This will fix the problem, right? Given that men are the problem, the way to fix the problem is to not have men act like men. Of course, this assumes that there are certain characteristics that are exclusive to men, or at least when certain virtues are exercised through men, they are distinctively masculine. The feminazis and woketards would say yes, and that these are all bad, but then at the same time violently assert no differences between the sexes. The solution is to then have men act like women, assuming that there are certain things that are distinctively feminine, to which they would respond by saying, yes, any virtue is inherently feminine, while any vice is inherently masculine. The more we exalt the feminine and debase the masculine, we should see a marked shift in our cultural milieu. Peace in our time, right? Stupid men. So, is this what we see? Has feminism created a time, the times in which we live, an environment where women are more highly esteemed than ever, or debased? Are they treated like a precious vase across the board, or are they treated more like hammers? Are women more valued or debased than ever? They considered equality with men something to be grasped. Have they grasped it? And what effect has this had on men? All of the mocking, ridiculing, blaming, and scorning, what has it actually achieved? Just think of some of the sick, disgusting pervs of our times. Jeffrey Epstein, who didn't kill himself, by the way, and all the sick, perverted bastards that spent time with him, or guys like Harvey Weinstein. If you ever wondered why every woman in Hollywood is freaking crazy and on prescription drugs and non-prescription drugs, guys like that are a pretty good reason. What about Bill Cosby or Larry Nassar? Man-haters everywhere would say, that's just it. Thank you for making our point. To which I would respond, au contraire, which is French for buckle up. By constantly bashing, mocking, blaming, ridiculing, and scorning men in general, even good men, righteous men, valiant men, it hasn't reduced the amount of hammer swinging. It's just put the hammers on the shelves of the men in whose hands you wanted the hammers to begin with. That is, true masculinity, godly masculinity, is the corrective against the toxic, sinful douchebags mentioned above. Godly masculinity longs to protect women as the weaker vessel. Godly masculinity longs for justice and has the spine to execute it when men like these arise, which I would add is rare when godly masculinity is exalted. When hammers are allowed to be hammers, vases are safe and nails get driven in. Things get built and obstacles get removed. Therefore, the only thing that feminism, or all of the recent man-hating, has produced is reasons for which to hate men. That is, more men that should be hated. The only solution to this mess is a resurgence of godly masculinity and godly patriarchs who fear God and love wisdom and justice and have a spine to execute it. Cheers.